say I got a crack in my windshield.
At least maybe less heartbroken.
Geico lets you file a claim any way you want.
Are you crying?
No, there's pollen.
Geico. Ashley Home Store's Best of the Best sale is going on now. For a limited time only, you can get our best styles at our best prices or get 0% interest for 72 months with no minimum purchase. Click the link to find your store. Ashley Home Store. This is home.
Are you ready for a total body workout, Peloton fam?
Jess's 30-minute bike boot camp? I got this.
Get at home motivation anytime you want it.
Clip off that bike and meet me on the mat for lunges.
Tap into your motivation at onepeloton.com.
all right. What's up, everybody? How you doing? I literally went to sleep early. I went to sleep early so I could wake up early in y'all time, well, late in y'all time, so we can actually go ahead and watch this. Oh, cool! It has the part where I can. Anyway, it has. I went to sleep early so I could wake up during your time, prime time. I know it's around 10 o'clock right now where y'all at. You know what I mean? And not everybody is up because people gotta go to work. I understand that. I was off the ball by a little bit. Next time it'll be a lot closer to around 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock around that time when everybody's inside after they done got the drinks and hung out with the family and everything like that. So anyway, today we're gonna watch the NZ stories of Waitara. I don't know how to say it. It's Waitara? Oh, Waitara. But I will learn it. I will be learning it soon. I know the W's usually sound like an F or V, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, at the same time, still learning. Man, this is gonna be the second installment of what we watch. What's up, Picky? What's good, Xavier? Shout out to y'all in the stream. We're definitely gonna watch this documentary. So I hope you guys are ready. I'm over here just getting everything situated and trying to get Irish so I can, relax and vibe and enjoy the video too as well, and pick up all the messages I can. You know what I mean? Okay, it's 6:23. Okay, it's 6:23. I looked on Google and it told me it was around 10 o'clock. So I was like, huh? Okay. 6:23 p.m. here in Perth. Where's Perth? What part is that? Is that? Cause I'm only really knowing about the time. I guess they'll give me in like Auckland, but if it's 6:23 in Perth, that should be perfect. Yeah, that's perfect time. I don't know if Xavier is still in here, but shout out to him for pulling up and checking in. I know we got way more people to come in there, man. I need to start working on that a little bit better so everybody can get in here. So yeah, we definitely gonna watch this video though, man. Man, was I tired. It was raining and stuff earlier, and when it's raining, man, it feel good. You want to sleep. Okay, I feel you. Oh, you're in Australia. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Well, shout out to you, man. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to you for joining the stream, bro, guy. All right. Let me get everything right. Moved over there 10 years ago. Sheesh. Which do you like it better, New Zealand or Australia? Which is a stupid question, but Man, let me tell y'all something. I've been getting a lot of subscribers, man, and it's feeling good, you know what I mean? We're almost at one more subscriber, and we're at 900 subscribers. And I'm telling you, it's been maybe 3 to 4 months of just complete video making. And I'm telling you, man, NZ, New Zealand, Australia, and the Maori folks, their culture, you guys really, really showed love, and I really appreciate that. And I hope I can return the favor one day and come over there and do something fabulous for the country and for the culture. Getting ready to move back home though. Rarotonga, Cook Island. Okay. That's what it is. Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm ready to move back. All right. Safe travels, man. You know what I mean? Hope you get there in one piece. And make sure everything that you bring is perfectly intact when you get there, man. All right. So let me not doodle daddle. We've already been 14 minutes in the stream already. All right, here we go. Still waking up. But I feel like this is gonna be some good information here as well. I mean, there's gonna be some good information here. Okay, I don't know. A half cook islander. I didn't even know you could be a half cook. What is it? I think you're being sarcastic. Let me check what this is. No, you're not being sarcastic, huh? Is a nation south the South Pacific. I did not know that this was an actual country. Like, it's an actual country. It's an island. Yeah, this is crazy, bro. That's what's up, bro. It's dope information right here. Let's see what their culture is. This is intense. Polynesian and European influences. So, okay, so this is mostly Polynesian. Yeah, you're nah, I believe you now, bro. I see it here. I gotta write this down, keep this in the notebook. You know what? That's pretty dope, bro. I didn't know that. Cook Island, okay. Rarotonga. Okay. Alright, this is dope, man. Yeah, like I said, bro. You know, I hope you get back to where you need to get to, bro, and safely in one piece, man. You know what I'm saying? All right, so that's a crazy mix though, being half Maori and half Cook Island, bro. All right, well, let's get this video started, man. Look at them pies. You know, there's one thing I like about New Zealand, bro. It's like they have every kind of feature in one place. You know what I mean? It's just amazing to see. Like, you can see just like a rural, then next thing you know, a city, then, you know what I mean? Then you got mountains and all this type of stuff, bro. I really want to, if I could climb that would be amazing. Look at that. It's beautiful, man. Look at that, man. It's a beautiful scenery, man.
In the epic struggle for control of Taranaki, Waitara was the flashpoint. Waitara was the prize. Settlers wanted it as much as Maori were determined to keep it. In 1860, Waitara was the spark that ignited conflict that raged through the entire province for the next 20 years.
Jeez, 20 years? Do you know how many people have had to have been lost in 20 years, man? That's not cool, bro. That really ain't cool, bro. 20 years, bro, of battle? Jesus. Whew.
For Maori, it ended much as it began, with the ransacking of their lands and mana, the bitter cost of daring to defend themselves against what essentially was a home invasion.
Exactly. It was a home invasion. This isn't new. This isn't, and it's not going to be old anytime soon. This tactic is being done to this day right now, and a lot of people just don't see it. A lot of people just don't see it. Saddening.
The last line of defence for Te Atiawa was here, behind the palisades and fortifications of Pukerangiora. It remains a lasting, if largely forgotten, symbol of Māori resistance and resilience. Kia ora, I'm Mihingarangi Forbes. Join us for Stories of Waitara.
Shout out to everybody that's in stream right now. If you in here, man, go ahead and drop a comment. Drop a like. Make sure you like the video so we can get more people in here and watch this with us, man. Yeah, the scenery is amazing, bro.
The
I'd
story
build a
begins
hut.
here.
I'd build a
at
hut right there and just
Manuapo,
farm right
South
there.
Taranaki, 1854. Hundreds of Te Atiawa and other iwi gather for an extraordinary meeting of chiefs.
They met to talk about the impact of colonisation in this region. They understood that the selling of land for what the government
I
was
believe
offering
it. I definitely
not
believe
worth
that you guys are
pursuing.
distant relatives.
They understood that the value of the land was far better if they retained land and developed it economically. And in that hui, they made the commitment not to sell land. In the hui, they
What's
passed
good, Sean?
around a toki.
Shout out to
name
you,
of the
man.
toki, or kurukuru. And as arrived in each person's hands, they uttered these words, the oath, tangata tōmua, whenua tōmuri. People would give their lives before they gave their lands to sale. Leaders from throughout Taranaki came together in that hui. That included Te Rangitake. Te Rangitake was a leader focused in on peace. He was a diplomat. He was someone who sought to build relationships. Rere tā whangawhanga, his father said, kia kaue tuku a Waitara kia makere atu I te kapu o tō ringa. And Te Rangitake was the person for that. And of course, Te Matakatea, the most recognised military leader within Taranaki of his time. He had honed skills of strategy and warfare all through the previous musket wars, and he shared those skills with others such as Hapurona. Hapurona, as a young man, he fought alongside Te Matakatea. He had fought within many of the key
guessing that
battles
axe that they
with
have right
Waikato
there is
and other tribes.
So I'm guessing that the axe that they have right there is sort of basically a treaty between all of the kings, which is dope.
From the north. He was the person that gave confidence to his people, knowing that they would be led into war. Ko te mate o te whenua, ko te mate o te tangata. That is the type of leader you need when you go to war.
Shout out to you, Pro Mover, man. What's up?
So our people said, e kore mātou e tuku I te whenua, ki te hoko. Hei noho anga mō te Pākehā. Whakatūria ngā pau. Ko kurukuru ki runga, ko taipake ki raro. Ka tikina e Te Atiawa, ka whakatūria tōna pau ko Waitaha. Ka herea te whenua, ka herea te tangata. Ka whakairia te henu tapu ki runga ki ngā whata. He pata ua no te rangi ka oti te hiri ki te whenua. He paua auahi no te whenua ka oti te hiri ki te rangi. So these proclamations and statements and policies were sanctified by clear oaths and agreed to by all those present at Manuapo.
Well, for many Pākehā, the Manuapo hui is seen as the start of a land league, and it's seen as a threat to this desire to acquire further lands.
Nearby, in the settlement of New Plymouth, The decisions made at Manuapo have a profound impact. No more Māori land for sale meant settlers were largely confined to the town limits, and they were furious.
You hear that? They were furious. Why were they furious? Because they couldn't get the greed. The greed that they had was being halted. And after greed, what takes after greed? Your pride. And that's exactly what took place here. What you're gonna see. This is just from the outside in, looking in. Right?
Pākehā didn't travel halfway around the world to play second fiddle to people that they regarded as inferior to themselves. And so New Plymouth, it's a settlement that's frustrated by the fact that they deem that they don't have enough land to farm. And there is this intense pressure that builds up through the 1850s as a result of that. And so Waitara is seen as an ideal place to acquire further lands.
Like I'm telling you, bro, it's all about the greed coming out to show itself. Right? It's definitely all about the greed showing itself right now. They could have made a treaty or made some kind of bond with them, you know what I mean, to share the crops or share the area. They don't want that. They want it all. And it's saddening to see that. Because when somebody wants it all and you're not going to give it to them, like I said in the last stream, there's bound to be conflict. And you're going to see it firsthand here.
The land within Taranaki is extremely fertile. Ki ana he whenua mōmona, rich volcanic soils. Most things will flourish within these conditions. Gardening was one of the main activities of Taranaki through that period. They developed economic base by selling the kai that they produced, and Pākehā coming into the regions could look upon the soil and...
Have I seen the Maori Battalion? Marshall, no, I haven't. If you have a link or something like that, you know what I mean? Let me know what's up. Let me know. Send it to my I need an email page for you guys so that you guys can send me this kind of information. Just put it on my Instagram. You can find the Instagram as I refuse to shoot, or you could just put it in the comments on any other videos and I'll check the link out.
And quickly realized the fertility of this region. They planted kumara, taiwa, pumpkins, and wheat. And they traded those crops with the settlement in New Plymouth. Not far away, the Pākehā were looking towards the land that was accessible to Māori and the developments that were taking place, and the tension rose. They cultivated in an area, a river delta, at the mouth of Waitara River, which was their main expressway heading inland. They could carry their kai on waka right up the river.
The Waitara dispute is really about two different understandings of how Māori and Pākehā should live together. On the one hand, the Crown is in charge, and by implication settlers are as well, and that conforms with their notions that they are superior to Māori, because that's what a lot of Pākehā firmly believe. But that doesn't accord with the reality on the ground, where Māori are still incredibly powerful and in many ways dominating the economy and in charge of their own affairs.
And that's what many other cultures fear. Like big cultures, powerful cultures, they really, most of the colonizers, they really do fear you having your own. If you have your own, that means that you can build, and if you can build, you're a threat to them, which just isn't true. It's just not true at all. You gotta be sovereign. You gotta learn to be sovereign. Take care of your own. You know what I mean? Not everybody needs a dependent.
Waitara doesn't have the significance it once had. But by the late 1850s, settlers would stop at nothing to get it. Waitara was prime real estate. So Crown land agents set about manipulating a sale from a local chief, Te Teira Manuka. It was classic divide and rule.
And it's hard because I don't want to villainise Te Teira. He has that position within our history where it's easy to say, nā te he. It's not a nice thing for everyone to drag their tupuna's name up every time. The real culprits were the Crown. Well, their sole job was to separate the people from their land. Crown agents like McLean, the glorified real estate agents, were running around looking to buy land off whoever would sell it.
Donald McLean came from quite a modest background in the Scottish Highlands and a clan system that was not
Shout out to
similar
you,
for
Marshall.
Māori.
Appreciate the subscription, my guy.
Was fluent in Māori and had, I think, quite a in-depth understanding of Māori society, knew many of the rangatira, had close relationships with them. But he was also the leading figure in terms of Crown purchasing. So he, in a way, he kind of exploited the knowledge that he had of Māori in order to further the Crown's ends. McLean is instrumental in advising Governor Gore Brown that Te Tere has a right to sell those lands.
And he would have known the consequences of that purchase.
He knew that I think that there was going to be some kind of impending showdown as a result of that, because previously it wasn't the usual practice to purchase lands from individuals, especially when the rest of the owners disputed that. And so the notion that Te Tere could sell those lands on his own without the consent of the leading rangatira of the community and the rest of the people of Waitara was something new and shocking for Māori. February 1860, the British attempt to survey the disputed lands, and the owners send out kuia to pull out the survey pegs, which is seen as a way of signalling opposition to the supposed purchase without doing that in a confrontational way. And the Crown's response to that really is quite extraordinary, because they call this an act of rebellion, pulling out survey pegs from the ground, and they declare martial law over the Taranaki province.
It having become necessary to issue the Governor's proclamation, placing the district under martial law, I deem it advisable, in order to prevent unnecessary alarm among the settlers, to...
Wait a minute. So, they were put under martial law. I hope you guys know what martial law is. Yo.
Assure them the Governor's proclamation, placing the district under martial law, I deem it advisable, in order to prevent unnecessary alarm among the settlers, to assure them that should events lead to actual collision with the natives, due notice will be given to enable them to provide for the safety of their families. G.F. Murray, Lieutenant Colonel.
They could see that one of the first things that the government did when they purchased land was to survey. And the surveyors came in and laid pegs down to divide the land, to determine what was Pākehā land and what was Māori.
Part of the rules of those days is that you couldn't buy disputed land. One of the rules was that only the Queen could buy land off our rangatira. In that case for Waitara, we were made absolutely sure that people knew that this was a disputed land. Right from the time of the surveyors coming to pick it up to our old people going out and pulling out those survey pegs to show their opposition to it.
We have a story about one of our kuia, Keita, who was one of the first to start pulling up pegs to demonstrate to the government that this is Māori land, kei a tātou te rangatiratanga o tēnei whenua. And Keita pulled those pegs as what was perhaps the first act of resistance in this way, protest against the acquisition of land, the forced acquisition of lands within Taranaki. For our kuia keita to have done this on these lands is both symbolic and also an act of great courage, knowing soldiers and the surveyors were there, but she stood and pulled the pegs out in plain sight to demonstrate to them that she did not recognise the act of surveying land and they did not recognise the purchase of this land.
With martial law in place, hostilities were now inevitable. Veteran warrior chief Hapurona emerges as the military leader and tactician. The man and the hour have met.
Hapurona had a different experience in war. Hapurona had been up in the far north, and so that experience in fighting the Pākehā came to the fore as a person we needed when we were invaded by the British Army.
A large gathering was called in New Plymouth by the government. A large feast was held for all of those who attended. It was attended by people such as Te Teira, Te Rangitake and Hapurona and many, many others. And it was there the karaki that Hapurona composed, advocating peace, ko te karaki o te maungarongo, coming from a person who was recognised for his skill, his strategy in war. His words meant something when he was the one advocating that Taranaki did not want war, it wanted peace.
Ka mate hiro e tūtake ke tāni te tumutei nei tō tua tāni te taurike tei nei tō tua. Ko e taia mingi mingi ko e ngārara tuatara ko e wakaka tuki tuki a ko e wakaka wā ia ko e waka wakarere. Kei runga nei tētei pō, kei raro nei tētei pō. Pō ki tupua tētei pō, pō ki tawito tētei pō. Ura mā nea nea kataka te pō, hia kataka te pō.
Hapurona said, I've seen war, I've seen what war gives the people, and we do not want this for Te Atiawa. We do not want this for Taranaki, and what starts in Waitara will very quickly escalate to the whole country.
He matua o ki te wānanga, he matua o ki arangi nui e tūnei. Kei piri, kei tata mai o ki kia au e tūnei. E rongo e o kairi ake ki runga, tūturu waka maua kia tina, tina ui e, tāe ki e.
Now, to an ignorant person, or somebody who has an immense amount of pride, they look at this as a battle cry, or when in reality it's a peace cry. You know, they really don't want to take it to this next level because they understand that they have kids, they have mothers, they have daughters, they have sons that need to, grow and live, and they have a culture that they want to live and grow as well. And they're not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? They're living on their land, being peaceful to themselves and working and giving back to and trading with other people, you know. And I'm not for certain, but I think that the word that I'm looking for starts with a TEH. That must mean either colonizers or foreigners or something of that manner, or just plain out white folk. But I mean, I'm not sure. But I mean, as you can see, man, they didn't really want this to take place. But I mean, what can you do when you have a powerful country knocking at your door over and over and over again, telling you, trying to extort you,
But the crown was not for turning. The British set up a garrison in Waitara, and in response, Hapurona hastily builds a fortified pā at Te Kōhia, overlooking the garrison's main route back to New Plymouth. And today, there's nothing here. Nothing at all, not even a signpost to mark this place, Te Kōhia Pā, as one of the most significant sites in New Zealand's history.
For us in Taranaki, the 17th of March in 1860 was the most important date. That was the date where the first shots were fired upon Te Kōhia Pā.
Te Kōhia was a statement. Te kohia was a statement by our people in clear view of the Crown's military camp that this is our whenua. You can't just come here and say that we've surveyed it, therefore we've bought it, therefore it's ours. There wasn't a major battle there, as much as it was the major signal that the Crown had started hostilities against us without provocation.
From a Māori perspective, that was all important. If Māori had launched the first attack, well, then we would have been in the wrong. However, the Crown had done that. That demonstrated that they were the aggressor.
Following on from that, it was considered that the Te Atiawa cause was a just one and that others would then come to their assistance and aid them. Almost immediately, there are articles from Waikato and so on.
It was attacked by the Crown, thinking that this is where Te Atiawa was going to hold their ground and to take a stand. But when they attacked, there was no one in there. The people within it had all left.
The assumption on the Crown side was that there would be a quick, easy victory. And this is the source of immense frustration. And these assumptions of an easy victory, they don't bear fruit.
We have a kōrero about a young kōtiro. Ka koa te tamāhine whakaaria te Iringaniu. She was sent to climb to the top of Te Iringaniu, the tallest peak within the Kaitake Ranges, to send a message to the iwi of Taranaki to the south, that the war within Waitara had begun.
Waiata e kore pauri tonu. That's a Waitara waiata. In a couple of the lines, it reflects on the young girl. They sent this young girl because they knew that if any of the soldiers or the military saw a young girl running, they wouldn't take any notice of her, rather than if it was a young boy running, it would be more suspect. So they do this so that she could successfully get there to warn Taranaki people that Waitara were in war. She goes up to Te Ringaniu and she lights fire. And it's the smoke signals that let Taranaki people know that there's a cry of need on this side.
By now, New Plymouth is really spooked.
Of course they are. They have to be spooked because they just installed war. But their war tactic failed. What they thought was going to be easy is turning out to be harder than it must be. Because it's coming so close to their home, to their so-called home. And this, yo, I kid you not, bro. As I come on here more, you're gonna see that majority of the places that had conflict with the British, the French, and all different types of colonies back in that day was all because of land. Everybody was trying to prove how big their nuts were, how big their balls were, and they just bullied everybody else, which is just unfair. But I know now that life isn't fair, you know, and it sucks. It sucks to see that many people had to die because of one's pride, you know, one's ambition, you know. it definitely could have been handled completely different, but people didn't want it that way.
And so are the troops here at the Omata Stockade, a fort just a few k's south of the colonial settlement. And that's because a little further down the coast at Kaipopo Pa, Waireka, Te Atiawa and southern tribes were gathering, determined to uphold the oath they'd made at Manuapo, no more land sales. The stockade is vulnerable, so just 11 days after the Battle of Te Kohia, British regulars and militia march on Kaipopo. But this time, Māori choose to stand and fight.
Within the pa was Te Matakatea. Te Matakatea led the group in the front of the pa and sent his men to the back of the pa, knowing that if they would be attacked, it would most likely be from that location. As they were being attacked from the rear, confusion started to grow. And from what I was told, Te Matakatea stood and called the people to hold the ground, to hold the pa, and not give in. But it was in that battle that many of the main leaders from Taranaki iwi were killed, with Te Matakatea and others managing to escape.
There are mixed accounts of what happened next, but what we do know is that Kaipopo was ultimately overwhelmed by imperial troops.
For Taranaki iwi, and actually for Ngāti Ruanui as well, it was devastating. Devastating because one of the ariki of the tribe for Taranaki iwi, Paora Kukutai, perished there. He was shot. And there were a lot of others that were killed, and there are accounts where they were carrying people back in stretchers from here, further south, back into their rohe.
And did the attacks continue?
Absolutely. So the Navy under Captain Craycroft shifted out of Waireka and Kaipopo and then came back into town here. They all loaded up on the government steamer and they continued down the coast and bombed the people as they were carrying their wounded.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know a commercial's gonna come playing.
Wounded back home.
I didn't know there was a commercial there. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream, man. If you're in the stream and you haven't subscribed, just subscribe. We got more of this coming up too. You know, I'm gonna try to do one every week. You know what I mean, to prolong it so that we understand what was going on in this area. And we got other cultures being featured as well very soon. So please, you know, take your time to subscribe and like, and let's enjoy this together.
So, this one, Hugh Harris was cruelly murdered by the rebel Māori at Waitara.
Yeah, it's remarkably strong language, isn't it? Which kind of speaks to a mindset that all of these references to rebel Māori, to murder and so on, there's kind of this idea that it was the Crown fighting a just war rather than Māori.
Mm.
All right, see?
And I guess if you didn't...
Look, let me tell you something. When it comes down to media, or when it comes down to wording things, that can really change the dynamic of how you see people, right? Like, they started the war. They encouraged people to stand up and fight for themselves, or provoked them. They had to fight for what was theirs, and just because somebody on their side gets killed, now it gives them the right to actually put it in a way where they were just, or they were right for doing what they had to do. When in reality, you have way more than this person, than this culture, and you basically just took advantage of them. This is the second time that I've done these documentaries, and I'm just seeing bullshit. It's complete bull. And at that time, they wouldn't have known then, but they do know now, right? I'm telling you, man, it's not only the Maori culture that went through this situation. And like I said, I'm gonna show you in many other documentaries. Hopefully, you guys come on and you watch it, and you're gonna see what I mean.
Have the full story, and this is the only narrative that you stroll past. You would be forgiven for thinking that it was a one-sided war.
Yeah, that's right.
After Waitara, a ceasefire is ordered, and it lasts almost 3 months. But Te Atiawa General Hapurona immediately starts building a twin pa stronghold at Puketakauere, close to where the war began.
Again, we see the approach used by Hapurona when he established two pa. Puketakauere, that was standing off to the side, and then another one in the more traditional sense of a pa at Onuku Kaitara.
The twin pa are a deception. Yes, they're manned, but they're largely decoys. The real strength lies outside the palisades.
And so again, the strategy played out as Hapurona had planned. We see the approach used by Hapurona putting his enemy in a position of weakness, attacking the traditional pa, and all of the time having his forces hidden in a position of strength.
As one British officer remarked,
yeah, that looks
the pa
amazing.
looked innocent enough from the outside. Theirs for the taking. So 350 men were primed and readied to teach the natives a lesson they'd never forget.
It was a masterful plan. The veteran fighting chief Hapurona had fortified both pa, Puketakauere and Onuku Kaitara, and had anticipated the troops would attack from the garrison over there in Waitara, and sure enough, they did. But what they didn't expect was this. The bulk of Hapurona's men weren't in the pa, they were hidden in rifle pits like this, in between the two. The trap was set.
After an artillery
Steez,
bombardment
I'm
comes
definitely
a
gonna go
full
ahead. I'm gonna
frontal
react to the Maori
British
battalion,
assault.
bro. Trust me.
Army
I
and
will. That's
Navy
the second person
vying
that told me
to
about
take
it
the
today, so
pa
I'm definitely
first.
gonna look into it.
But little do they know what's in store. Hapurona's elaborate network of defences has been completely overlooked by their officers. Charging into the open, they're caught
Appreciate
in a
the subscription,
withering
bro.
crossfire. They don't know what's hit them.
The British were kind of lulled into a trap, really, and it's really disastrous for the British, and it is seen as a major defeat. The British suffer their heaviest defeat of the war. Nearly 1/5 of their number end up as casualties, I think 30 killed and 34 wounded. So it's really quite a humiliating blow.
The assault ends in complete disarray. In the bush and in the swamp, fleeing soldiers make for easy targets. An unthinkable setback for imperial prestige. But for Māori, it's payback. Utu for Waireka. Today there's not much to show for the dramatic events that unfolded here. Nuku Kaitara is on private land, a paddock for cows. Back then, these gullies were the only paths of retreat to nearby Camp Waitara. But they were also treacherous swamps. And if the fleeing troops thought they'd experienced the worst of it, they were badly mistaken.
Before these two pa was a whole network of repo, of swamps and streams. And this being the middle of June meant that it was extremely cold, the middle of winter. And we understand that the soldiers that were attacking these pa suffered hypothermia because of the cold.
Trapped
get
and
into an area.
disoriented,
You get into an area you're not used to.
the survivors were picked off by an ever-present enemy. Some drown, overwhelmed by sheer exhaustion. There are accounts of Hapurona himself challenging a British officer to the death. Sword versus Taiaha. The Taiaha won.
It's said that a number of the bodies of those who were killed lay in that swamp for weeks afterwards. And this is also seen as a source of humiliation, that even those who are killed are not retrieved and given decent burial.
News of the defeat sends shockwaves through the settler community.
At the end of June 1860, there's kind of panic in the settlement of New Plymouth, and there is this decision made to evacuate the women and children because it's no longer considered safe. A lot of them go to Nelson. Within New Plymouth itself, you know, the conditions there become pretty appalling too over time, and you get, over the space of a year, about 120 people die of disease and illness and so on because of the cramped conditions there.
On the upper reaches of the Waitara River, Te Atiawa have dug in at Pukerangiora.
The tactics that our people had back then when fighting against larger numbers and more guns was to make a stand, let the opposition expend their energy, and then tactically withdraw to the next place. And so our people were constantly preparing the next place to withdraw to.
It's their last desperate line of defence, a last-ditch, all-in effort to push back the invaders. Shooting pits, tunnels, bunkers, palisades.
This was a significant part. It was a place where the people of Te Atiawa had defended themselves on many occasions in the past.
But by December 1860, the British make a crucial change of tactics that literally alters the landscape and shifts the balance of power.
Oh boy.
3.5 kilometres of saps were built by the troops to get close enough to the pa to make their attack.
This is such a fundamental shift in warfare for the British. Up until this point, they'd used full frontal assaults on pa. Now their engineers were constructing deep covered trenches or saps to protect their advancing soldiers.
There's a huge number of people involved, and the sapping operation is quite a sophisticated one, but it's a very, very slow one. And for people wanting quick progress, they can't see it here. They want to see a major defeat inflicted on Māori, but it doesn't happen. The sapping operation begins in December 1860 and is still going in March 1861. So months and months of sapping.
In all, a force of 1,000 men and some 1,500 metres of trench lines. It's the most ambitious military engineering project in the colony to date. The saps, much of them covered for protection, are reinforced with earth-filled manuka baskets called gabions. Not only is it backbreaking work inching their way forward, but the engineers can barely raise their heads without being targeted by an unexpected and deadly foe.
E tū tama wahine te wao te kore. This was a statement made in Pariaka, and we see the same activity there at Pukerangiora in that battle against the troops of the Crown. They held the role just as much as men in defending Te Atiawa against the onslaught of the troops. Holding positions, picking off the soldiers one by one. Similarly, using strategy to maintain a position of strength within their pā. Ka mihi ki o tātou wahine. Tō rātou māia, tō rātou manoa nui. Such strength, such character, such courage.
Have you ever wondered what happens when you pour salt into a cabbage? The end remedy not only
I tell you what, that's one thing you don't want to get in between, a woman and a gun.
But after months of bombardments, skirmishes and bloodshed, and in the face of such overwhelming odds, the Te Atiawa defenders are left with no real choice. Rather than fight to the last, they abandon Pukerangiora and melt into the bush. Their allies head home. By March 1861, a shaky ceasefire is in effect. But after a year of fighting, there's no real military conclusion. And this is just the start. In the years to come, there'll be more battles. But as for this first Taranaki War, the cost is enormous. The countryside is devastated. The economy in ruins. What is it like for someone from Waitara to live in a community where you're reminded constantly by the street names and the blocks of lands of those men who took your land?
It's not so much the signs on the streets, but the hardest thing is to see rangatira whānau of Waitara still living hard, still not being able to produce their own goods, still not being able to support their own families. It's sad to see an education system that still denies them that knowledge. It's sad to see a judicial system which provides justice to everyone except our own. So the street signs, well, that will remind us who the bad guys are.
Now, see, with that, it's crazy because the only real people that'll know who the bad guys are or will be like the older people. As time goes on, if they don't share the information by word of mouth, they'll never know. It'll all just be a blur. Just like many other things, you know, that we don't know. But if you go to the library and you just read, you'll find out a lot of things. You don't have to go to the library anymore. You can just go on Google and check it out. There's a lot of places that have been through the same situation over and over and over again, timeless account to this.
"160 years on from what began at Waitara, so much of Taranaki's past remains unresolved. And here in the church grounds of Old St Mary's, New Plymouth, the bitter legacy still echoes across the divide."
Well, this is quite a contrast. A single headstone on the furthest corner of the church grounds.
Yeah, you couldn't get any further away really, and this is where a number of rangatira are buried, and it was considered too offensive to bury them with the British and Crown soldiers in the cemetery, so they're in the grounds of the vicarage. As you say, the furthest corner of the church property.
I think if I was a descendant of Te Atiawa or a descendant of Wetini Taiporutu, I would feel like my rangatira, my ancestors, hadn't been respected.
They weren't respected. In a sense, they weren't, but in a sense, they were. It all depends on whose side you're on or whose side you're looking from.
Tau mai ki roto pukerangi ora I te rangi nei me te māturu mai o te ua. Ka tika hoki ki a ua ki runga I a tātou I tēnei rā. Ko rongo tēnei, ko piri mai ki runga ki tēnei wenua. Ka ki atu he pata ua ki te rangi kaoti te hiri ki te wenua. He pawa ua e ki runga I te wenua.
I like that saying that the rain restores relationship with the land. I like that.
Kei konei tātou I roto I te ua he tohu o te ora.
Walking these forgotten trenches from a largely forgotten war and remembering the stories. The weight of loss is still heavy in the air. Lands lost through confiscation, lost culture, lost identity. For Te Atiawa, there can be no forgetting, but also there's a determination not to be victim to the past.
You can look back at history and say, our tupuna went through all of these conflicts and we're in a better space now. But when you look back at the conflict and say those were never resolved, we are still in a position of being demeaned and being belittled in our own area. Our tupuna constantly said the way forward was peace. The way forward for us is to focus on that legacy that they spoke about, that vision that they focused in. Because if we focus in on the grief and the pain, we constantly pull ourselves back into that grief.
You just like going up there and listening to the water running down in Rawa, looking over the cliff, imagining the whare, te waho o te marangai that used to once stand there, and all the tupuna. And I also think of tamariki, laughter, happy times. And I do recall one time I went up there with my two little moko with me. My moko were running along the top of the trenches and they were both calling and laughing. One of the wahine called out to me and she said, "Wahine, o mokopuna." And I'm looking at my babies running and they were just so happy. And I went, "Kei spai wei o rāua. Kei te kāinga rāua." So it just made me think like that somber feeling wasn't going to affect my babies.
Today, the great fighting pā at Pukerangiora rests, wreathed in kawakawa.
Kia kā no te tupu o te kawakawa I konei, he tohu ki te mate, engari e aro ana ki te apōpōtanga, e hoki mai te ora ki runga Pukerangiora, ki runga Te Atiawa, ki runga I a taranaki puta atu ki te ao.
The grief of Waitara will not be forgotten. It reminds us of the aspirations our tupuna held for the future.
Puke puke rangi kia ora ati ta witi witi nui te tangi a te tirai raka na ura e raka te kata waka motunga e karere mai koe he wai karu karu nei e riringi Waitara I wai puke puke kei ata.
Yeah, go back to that. Let me go back. let me go back to this. All right. So, within 18 months of the ceasefire, George Gray, the new governor, I think we watched that, would amass 18,000 troops and invade Waitara, dispossessing of them of their lands. Right. Listen to what it says. No, look what it says. In 1863, the crown would return to Taranaki, engaging in a scorched earth policy, laying waste to villages and cultivations that would not cease until 1881. Bro, 1863 to 1881? Do you know how long that is? Do you know how many people had to suffer because of that? Do you know how many people really had to suffer? That's a lot of generations, man. That's what, like almost 19, 18 years? That's a lot of people, man. That's a long time. Imagine 1 year. But this took from 63 to 81? Now, this is what they call a punishment. The crown confiscated 1.2 million acres of land from the tribes of Taranaki as a punishment for defending their home. What punishment? That's not a punishment. They were defending what was theirs, being sovereign. Yeah, bro. The wording. It's all about the wording and who has power. Because if the Maori people were as big as probably like someone like the French or the German or something like that, you know, they wouldn't have this problem. Things would have happened a lot differently. But because they were a small culture, they got taken advantage of. And to this day, they still are. Like many third world countries being taken advantage of. We got to do better. We got to do better because a lot of cultures are going to die out. We definitely have to do better. Things like this, bro, sadly only ends in just a history book. And you're missing out on great people, great cultures, because people want to become bigger and better. It's not necessary. You're acting like a plague. And we all see that plagues aren't good. I'm just saying, man, it sucks. Alright, so I think that's the ending of this. That's the ending of this. So, they didn't really, compared to the other one that I watched before, they didn't really give us a lot of information regarding, this war, because it wasn't that big of a war compared to the other one. I hear you, bro, saying that no one wants to learn about these things anymore, which is sad. It's history, bro. And with history, if you don't learn history, you're bound to let it repeat itself. So imagine how many people in the world actually want to become sovereign. They want to create their own country, create their own land, live on their own land. They're not allowed to anymore. You have to fall in line with what is, unfortunately. So there's no space, no room for new cultures, new civilizations, which is terrible. People have a mind of their own, bro. They want to do what they want to do. They can't do it anymore because everything's looked frowned upon because of what is acting law. Listen, I'm just saying this right here is frustrating because I can see the Maori people living in peace. You know what I mean? Not giving any harm to anybody. They had everything they needed. I'm gonna definitely watch it. I'm gonna watch it, and we gonna watch it together. You know what I mean? Like I said, we gonna handle what we need to handle and watch what we need to watch. You know what I'm saying? But listen, I appreciate everybody coming in and watching this with me and allowing me to, give my insight in what I saw, and also you giving insight into what you know. we're definitely gonna watch the stories of the replica. I don't know how to say it. The replica. I can't say it yet, but I'm learning. And also, we're gonna watch the Maori Battalion. So we're definitely gonna watch those two things next. So just stay tuned. I'm gonna try and come in here as much as I can, and be earlier, like an earlier time as much as I can, so that we can watch those. All right. Anyway, it's your boy Refuse to Shoot, man. I'm out of here. Make sure you call somebody you love and tell them you love them, because you never know when you're gone. And y'all take care.